This week, millions of people will take a tiny injection and wait for an obvious change. Maybe they feel less hungry, maybe the number on the scale falls, or a plate of chips suddenly becomes much easier to ignore. But long before the mirror shows anything, another important change may already be happening somewhere you cannot see, inside the tiny engines that power your cells and body. The medicine is called Semaglutide. Ozempic is one familiar brand that contains it. It does not climb inside those tiny engines with a miniature screwdriver and install a shiny new upgrade. Biology is never quite that convenient. Instead, it changes the messages moving around your body in several ways. That can change how much fuel reaches your cells every day, how well that fuel is used, how damaged engines are cleared away, and how much muscle you keep. Early studies give us several mixed clues, mostly from cells in mice rather than real people. Some suggest better efficiency, others show a short-term slowdown, another points to better cleanup inside the heart. So is Ozempic boosting your cellular engines, briefly dimming them, or simply helping them adapt to change? Let us start with what we know. Semaglutide copies a natural gut signal called GLP-1. After you eat, this signal tells your brain that food has arrived. It also helps control your blood sugar. It helps insulin control rising sugar and slows food leaving the stomach. Put simply, the message tells your brain, we have eaten, and turns down hunger. That is why this medicine can lead to major weight loss. It is not a sudden burst of stronger willpower. It is biology at work. For many people, the constant background argument with food becomes quieter. The cravings stop demanding so much of their time and attention. It can feel like finally getting noise-canceling headphones after years spent beside a roaring leaf blower. But eating less changes much more than dinner. It changes your body's whole fuel supply. Less food comes in. Blood sugar spikes shrink. Stored fat begins to open. The liver, heart, body fat, and muscles all face a different workload. Your mitochondria sit at the end of this chain. Mitochondria turn fat and sugar into usable energy for every heartbeat, thought, and step you take. They even power that noisy little effort of standing up from the sofa. Change the fuel supply, and these engines must adjust. Here's the big idea to remember. Mitochondria are not simple light bulbs stuck with only one brightness setting. They form a busy, flexible network inside each cell. They join, split, switch fuels, change their output, and remove damaged parts when needed. A cell flooded with extra fuel has a very different problem from one losing weight. With obesity and type 2 diabetes, the body can have plenty of fuel around, but still struggle to move it into cells and use it properly. Imagine sending 5 full coal trains to a power station at once, while half the red warning lights flash across an already overwhelmed control room. Semaglutide can change that whole setting. People eat less, lose body fat, and often control blood sugar better. The organs also work under a very different load, and that creates an important question researchers still cannot answer. Does the medicine reach in and change mitochondria directly, or do they adapt because the whole world around them has changed? A repaired power station and an unchanged station serving a less wasteful city can both use less fuel. Same final bill. Very different explanation for it. In 2025, researchers studied the muscles of mice with obesity after they lost weight while receiving semaglutide. Their muscle fibers made more usable energy from the same amount of oxygen. The whole system looked more efficient. Same oxygen, more energy. That sounds like a clear upgrade. But then the researchers removed the mitochondria from the muscle. When they tested those engines completely alone, the advantage vanished. The mitochondria themselves were not simply newer, better batteries after all. The improvement appeared only while they stayed inside the complete muscle, connected to its fuel delivery, chemical messages, calcium signals, and physical structure. Even the list of mitochondrial proteins barely changed. The parts looked almost the same, but the complete system worked differently. That suggests the secret may be in teamwork, how fuel arrives, when energy is needed, and how the muscle is organized. In other words, weight loss may make the whole working muscle better at doing the same physical job while using less fuel than before. That is excellent engineering for survival, but frustrating after weight loss. Your body may become very good at doing the same work while burning fewer calories each day. And remember, these were mice. A mouse study is a useful clue, not medical advice in a tiny lab coat. Now comes a result pointing the other way. In 2026, researchers treated muscle cells with semaglutide in a laboratory. Some cells originally came from humans, but they were growing alone in dishes. They were no longer connected to a living, breathing person. After 2 days, the The cell's engines used less oxygen and made less energy. By day 5, they had returned to normal. That does not prove harm or benefit. It shows a temporary adjustment in isolated cells. A mouse heart gave another answer. In mice with diabetes, semaglutide helped heart cells spot worn-out mitochondria and send those damaged engines into the cell's own cleanup and recycling system. Think of it less like charging a battery and more like finally removing broken appliances from the garage and recycling the parts. But this was sick mouse heart tissue, not healthy human muscle. That important difference must stay in mind. Together, these studies show there is no single response to semaglutide. Heart and muscle can react differently. The answer may also change with health, dose, timing, and whether the cell is still inside the body. So be careful with one-line claims about Ozempic and mitochondria. You cannot squeeze an entire power grid onto a supplement label. Successful weight loss can also bring a trade-off. Most of the weight loss will usually be body fat, but some lean mass may fall too. Lean mass does not mean muscle alone. It also includes water and organs. Still, muscle matters because it contains many mitochondria and helps you remain strong, mobile, steady, and independent in everyday life. This has created two extreme headlines. One says Ozempic destroys muscle. The other says there is no concern, neither tells the whole story. Fat can fall faster, even while some lean mass is lost. And the amount of tissue you have does not always tell us how well your body works. In 1 year-long study, lean mass fell, but its share of body weight rose and hand grip strength improved. A smaller engine room is not automatically a weaker one, but this result does not mean every person will respond in exactly the same way. Older adults or people who are already frail may need extra care. This is where medicine, muscle, nourishing food, and regular daily movement all meet. The medicine can help you eat less, but it cannot tell muscle to stay. Muscle gets that message from being used. Lifting, carrying, climbing stairs, and doing resistance exercise. It also needs enough protein, energy, and other useful nutrients to repair and rebuild itself. The plan must fit the person. The goal is not simply to become lighter, it is to become lighter and remain capable. Here's the honest scoreboard from studies in actual people. For the right patients, semaglutide can reduce body weight and improve several important health outcomes. In a large study called SELECT, people with heart disease and excess weight but no diabetes had a lower risk of heart attack, stroke, or heart-related death. The relative risk was 20% lower than with a dummy treatment. That is important, but we still do not know exactly why the heart benefit happens. The official prescribing information says so. Weight, blood pressure, inflammation, blood sugar, kidneys, and mitochondria may all play a part. There may be no single conductor. We are also missing the best human experiment, carefully testing muscle from the same people before and after semaglutide. Researchers would need to separate the medicine's direct effect from eating less, losing weight, moving more often, and improving control of blood sugar. We do have a clue from a human study using liraglutide, a related medicine that works in a similar way. People who combine that medicine with planned exercise improve stair climbing and overall fitness more than people who use the medication alone. That does not prove semaglutide directly upgrades mitochondria. It shows that medicine and exercise have different jobs. Quieting hunger still does not train or strengthen muscle. So, is Ozempic quietly rewiring your mitochondria? It might be, in the broadest sense, but the small word might is doing very important work there. Semaglutide changes hunger, fuel flow, blood sugar, body weight, and the workload on several organs. Mitochondria are built to respond to those conditions. In cells and animals, we see changes in efficiency, energy output, and cleanup. But a simple, direct mitochondrial upgrade has not been proven in people. So do not picture a phone simply receiving a newer, better battery overnight. Picture an entire city slowly changing the way it receives and uses energy. Fuel traffic changes direction. Some old damaged generators may be removed. The remaining power network may learn to do its job more efficiently. But if the city stops caring for its working factories, your muscles, it may lose useful strength and capacity along with the excess body weight during otherwise successful weight loss. If you use semaglutide, do not stop or change treatment without first speaking to the clinician caring for you. Instead, ask a better question than only, how much weight did I lose? Ask what happened to your strength, fitness, and everyday ability, your nourishment, your freedom to move, and the real life that the weight loss was meant to make healthier, longer, and easier. Because the real promise was never just a smaller number, it was a more usable life, powered by cells that keep adapting.